Oh my God, we're talking about the CrossFit Open again. Let's get into it. Hey, before we get started, you guys know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you don't miss any content coming out here on the channel. So at the beginning of this week, a couple of things happened. First of all, I did a post about me not signing up for the CrossFit Open, but why others should. I got a lot of grief for it. We're going to talk about it at the end of this episode, so feel free to scroll forward if you're just here to troll. The second thing that happened was I put out a Q&A or a Ask Me Anything to some followers and said, hey, give me some great questions for a show and I'll answer your questions and put your name on the screen. I got 5 questions from followers. A couple of them are about the Open, so we're going to get to everything you want to hear today. Let's jump in. First question comes from FitFish. FitFish asks, do you think that CrossFit is trying to guilt the community into participating in the Open? Thanks for the question. No, I actually don't. I don't think they're guilting at all. One thing I think that Don did really well over the last year or so is he made 2 really good hires on the C-suite front. He hired Jada Coons and Jenna Halka. Jenna is the CMO and runs the marketing side. And I don't think what they're doing is positioning this Open as guilt. I think they're very smartly making an emotional plea to a community to get people to enroll. That's 100% how you should try to get people to enroll. Think of it like this, like sales should always be about emotion. No one ever bought a minivan for the color or the engine. They buy it because they're safe. They'll protect and transport your most precious cargo, which are your kids. There's a lot of room for car seats. Like it's all about how can this make your family's life better? And that's why people buy minivans. Well, the Open is no different. You want to appeal to that sense of community and love of something in order to get people to buy. So I think it's a really smart business strategy for them. I also think it leads to a happier client base, in this case, a happier community. So I think they're doing a really good job of promoting the Open as it is. Second question from Kimmy Caston. Kimmy asks, how many good/bad gyms and coaches do you think there are? The question's a little loaded because CrossFit doesn't release data on the gyms. I mean, I don't think they have enough data to even be able to tell us this, but I can give you some business sense around what I think, and we'll go from there. So if you think of any business, you can rate almost any business on the planet with a bell curve, meaning you're going to have, we'll call it 5 to 15%. It's a little lower than 15%. They're going to fall into the poorly run category, and another 5 to 15% that are your top performers. And then everybody else falls into the middle. I think that percentage of those that fall into the low performers within CrossFit is much lower than any other type of gym or businesses out there. And I have a number of reasons for that. First of all, I think very few, if any, affiliate owners get into this business as a money-making venture. And that's important to know because people that get into something because they love it, not because of money, have a much higher degree of commitment. The average gym within the affiliate network makes a little less than $54,000 a year. Now that's off the CrossFit website, and that's their data. So my point is, if you have a large number of affiliates that are earning a low amount of money, but they've been open for a long time, which there are a lot of those, I think it speaks to the fact that you've got a lot of affiliate owners and coaches with a real high degree of commitment, which also leads typically to high productivity or high degree of excellence in those same affiliates. You could also point out that the standards within CrossFit seem to be raising over the last couple of years. So I think that's helping too. The support from HQ continues to grow. They're requiring L2s for gyms, which will improve quality. And while this is a little anecdotal, I can tell you just from my personal experience, I've probably dropped into 100 affiliates in the last 5 to 6 years. And I can count on less than one hand, probably 2 times where I left thinking, that wasn't great. But I can tell you dozens of times where I walked out the door going, holy crap, that was the best coaching I've ever had. And I think that's more the norm than it isn't. I think our brighter days are ahead of us when it comes to this part of the business. And it's the one thing I think CrossFit does really well is you've got a really dedicated group of affiliate owners and coaches. Next question from K. Sarah. Great name. If CrossFit headquarters/sport stays on this crappy path that they're on, what are the plans for your affiliate? That's funny way you worded that, Sarah. So first of all, our affiliate's going nowhere. Chagrin Falls CrossFit is CrossFit through and through. We are huge defenders of the methodology and the brand, and we're sticking with that. I don't accept the premise of your question, though. I accept the spirit of it, but I don't believe the premise. I don't think CrossFit/Sport is on a crappy path. I think CrossFit headquarters or the affiliate network and Sport are run very differently. And I think they have been for years. So when you think of it in those terms, you do have to separate them when you're judging the business. Now, they're not different methodologies, but they are two different businesses in the way that they're run. The business side or the affiliate side seems to be improving very quickly. They've got their rhythms when it comes to affiliate town halls, marketing. I've seen improvement in internet search, CrossFit website, media. Like they seem to be really kind of firing on all cylinders right now in those areas. Is it all perfect? Absolutely not. I hear plenty of people complaining about some areas that they want to see improved, but bluntly, at $4,500 a year, it's a steal, a total steal. And truthfully, it's a steal at more than that. I'm not going to toss out a number because I don't want them to increase my affiliate fee, but I think it's a absolute steal at what they're charging and what you get in return. Now, on the sports side, that's been about as consistent as Florida weather. And until they figure that out, it's going to continue to be an issue for the business. Now, there's been a ton of banter this year around, are the changes to the games going to be good? Are they going to be bad? You hear it on both sides. When I looked at them, I didn't dig in super deep, but my reaction was it seemed as if for once, they're really trying to keep the affiliates top of mind, at least when it comes to the Open. And so that's, for me, a real positive sign of maybe things that are to come. The season hasn't started yet. We haven't had any games leaks or anything like that. So we'll have to wait and see. I guess when it comes to the sports side, I would say I'm cautiously pessimistic. Next question from Emily in Arizona. Sunk cost fallacy. Seems maybe CrossFit might be struggling with this. Investment too high. So first of all, love the nerdy question. Let's talk about first what a sunk cost fallacy is. So a sunk cost fallacy is the phenomenon where a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they've invested heavily in it, even when it's clear that abandonment might be more beneficial. So if I'm reading into what you're saying, Emily, is that you think CrossFit doesn't want to change, or is it changing quickly enough because they're really deeply invested and they either don't want to admit failure or they want to see through what they've done? And maybe you're talking about affiliates and affiliate members as well. I don't know, but I'll speculate a little on each. I think when it comes to Berkshire or the private equity company that invests and owns CrossFit, they really had no idea what they were getting into. They were probably thinking, hey, this looks like an easy purchase. We can turn it around, flip it, make a profit and move on, and have found out over that time frame, not so much. Now, the good news for them is a company of their size certainly is going to have the resources to sit on it for a while and get it right. And it appears as if they're starting to do that. So I would believe that they're getting that figured out. I think any affiliate owners that fell into this concept, and maybe even members, have probably already opted out. And if they haven't already opted out, they likely will soon, now that you see some competitors kind of popping up here and there. And bluntly, I think CrossFit probably wants that to happen still a little. Now, I know you guys get real squirrely when I say things like CrossFit wants fewer affiliates, but you have to keep in mind that CrossFit has more locations than F45, Orange Theory, High Rocks affiliates, and Barry's Boot Camp combined. So having fewer affiliates isn't necessarily a bad thing when you think about quality control and supporting those same affiliates. Also, I don't know what additional sources of revenue they have planned to come up. So if they have others that will allow them to generate more with less, it could be a really good move for them. Last question from Jacques Chris. Hope I pronounced that right. Do you think there will be a decrease in participation in the Open this year? Well, that's the loaded question of the week, isn't it? So I'm going to give you a long answer, kind of the nerdiness around the math that I explained in my previous video, but I'll give it a little more detail here. And then we're going to talk about me participating in the Open. The first thing you have to think about here is that you have 16% participation in the Open historically as it is. So in other words, you've got 84% of affiliate members that don't actually pay the $20 and compete. So knowing that, the number of affiliates you have is really, really important to figure out the total number that could potentially compete in the Open or enroll in the Open. Now, when you look at the affiliate map and you scroll it all the way out and start adding up affiliates, the map I have here on the screen equals a little over 10,000 affiliates. Now, I don't know how often this map is updated, so it could be more or less. And if you err on the side of caution, considering that 2 years ago they said they had 12,000, just for the sake of of safety, let's call it 11,000. So with 11,000 affiliates, if you have 16% participation as they have historically, you're going to have a little less than 300,000 people enrolled in the Open. Now, last year they had 344,000 people. So clearly that's less people year over year. But if you have the exact same number sign up, 344,000 sign up this year as last year, and you don't have a net gain, you would have a gain in the participation rate of pretty close to 19%. And I would consider that a huge win to have more people with fewer affiliates. So I would consider that growth. My short answer here is I think the headcount could likely be lower, but overall participation will be better. My hope is they're both better because 16% is stupid low from a fanatical fan base like CrossFit. You would think it would be closer to, 50 to 75%, but CrossFit's got to make their case to people to pay the $20. Appreciate the question. All right. Last point about the Open. So a few days ago, I shared with you guys that I wasn't doing the Open because I'm training for an event at the end of March. I don't think I got too much into the details, or I didn't give you enough details. And bluntly, a lot of you guys disagreed with my mindset of sitting it out to train for something else. And I get that. And a lot of you accuse me of a lot of stuff that isn't true, but that's fine too. It's internet, right? I heard everything from, hey, you're trying to take the whole system down and cripple CrossFit to your protesting Dave. While all those things are untrue, I do understand why people are concerned. And what I probably should have shared in the video is this. Over 10 Opens that I've competed in, I've been injured in 5 of them. One of them, I was actually injured so bad I had to sit out the following year. So technically I should have been in 11 Opens, not the 10 that I did. Basically what happens for me is I do really stupid things, which shouldn't be shocking to you guys. Red line workouts don't favor my body very well. And I've just been worried about getting injured weeks out from a competition that I've already paid for. These High Rocks events, they're not cheap. I just did one in Chicago. I grossly underperformed where I thought I should have been based off of the training I did leading into it. And I'm one of those people that I can't stand to fail. And so I get obsessive compulsive about improving. Shouldn't be shocking to you guys that someone who's posted 20,000 memes has an obsessive compulsive behavior complex. It's actually that same kind of obsession toward a goal that caused me to perform well in last year's Open. In last year's Open, my goal was to get into the 90th percentile because I'd never done that before. So of the 3 workouts we did, I did the first 2 3 times each, and I did the last one once because I shredded my hands on the bar muscle ups. I was going to do it a second time until I realized most people weren't getting as far into the bar muscle ups as I did, and I didn't need to redo it. So, the long story short here is that same behavior I did last year, I worry that I'm going to activate that like a sleeper agent in my head if I do the Open again. Now, as I've been listening to your guys' comments, I did get one from a follower, Rick McGuffey, who by admission is a self-described Sevenista, but he's somebody I respect, and I'll tell you why. Rick's one of those guys when he messages me, and it's pretty often, he messages me to tell me what he thinks I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And you need people like that in your life, right? People that will come to you and say, hey, you're a dumbass here. Quit doing that. And that's kind of the way he words it typically for whatever that's worth. But I respect that about him. He said a couple of things to me that made a lot of sense. First thing he told me was that I was grossly overthinking the effects of the Open on my body leading into another competition. And I'll give him points for that. I do tend to overthink things quite a bit. So that made a lot of sense to me. But the one thing he said that really hit home is that he pointed out that supporting the brand is by default supporting the countless lives that have been changed by CrossFit. Now, I was just home a couple of weeks ago talking to my dad. He just turned 80. He's been CrossFitting for the last 5 years. And for the last 2 years, he's been battling cancer. Now, we would not have found out that he had cancer had he not been CrossFitting. So I genuinely believe that CrossFit has saved his life and allowed him so much more, freedom in his life than he would have had he not been part of CrossFit. So I really respect that Rick brought that to my attention because it made me rethink my position of why I wanted to sit out. The other thing that Rick did I thought was funny and kind was he offered to pay my entry, and then he challenged me to do it for charity. Now, full disclosure, there's zero chance I would let anyone, including Rick, pay for me to be part of the Open. I'd already planned to do the Open with my affiliate on Friday Night Lights and then stick around to judge people and to cheer on my community. But he's absolutely made me rethink my viewpoint that the visibility of supporting a methodology that saved my father's life is a pretty damn valid point. So I'm going to sign up for the Open. But the second thing he said to me, or one of the things he said to me that I think we need to do here, is the challenge to do it for charity. And I was thinking that there's somebody else in my age division who's a pretty popular podcast host within the CrossFit sphere. I'm not talking about Sean Woodland, although he's in my age group too. I'm talking about Savan. And so here's my challenge. I'm going to do the Open. I'm not going to do them more than once. It's going to be one and done. I'm going to be judged by our head coach, who's going to take the judges course like everybody else. I'm going to kind of phone these things in. I'm going to keep my body safe. But here's the challenge. I'm assuming Savan's going to do the workouts too. He's part of the CrossFit community, huge supporter of Dave and the CrossFit games, and obviously the methodology. So if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. Let's compare scores. If he beats me and ranks higher at the end of 3 weeks, I'll donate $500 to the affiliate or charity of his choice. Anyone, you name it, you pick the gym, I'll send the money. If I win, you donate $500 to CrossFit First, which is the adaptive athlete class at Sugar and Falls CrossFit. CrossFit First is mostly athletes with Down syndrome and autism, probably the hardest working and sweetest athletes you've ever seen. They're fantastic. I'll even slap one of those CEO stickers on an assault bike so they can see it every single day. Hope you take the challenge. See you on the leaderboard.